So in pin verification example, how to use the loop without looping statements also we can do. Only conditions we can write. But our intent, I will give some exercises working with the loops. What I will do is I will post the exercises into classroom. Those exercises you do and you submit by tomorrow. Some tasks I will give related to loops. If you are unable to understand any particular, I will explain those exercises in the next session. Okay. So till now, what we learned about looping statements. Huh? So about the looping statements we are discussing. So we finished working with loops. In looping statements, what are the options we discussed? How to use a for. Is it audible to everyone online? Is it clear? So for online people, is it clear? Is it audible to everyone? Right. This person check. Yep. So wait 1 second. We will switch the network. Okay, so is it now okay to everyone, online people? Is it clear? So is it audible now to everyone? Is it clear? Yes. Okay, let's continue. All right. So in the last session, we discussed about the loops, and based on loops, I will give you some programs. Right? Those programs you submit me in the classroom. Right? Those exercises. I will explain in class how to handle them. So after understanding loops means simple programs I will give first. Suppose some programs you can already tell here. Suppose for example, means in interviews what kind of questions they ask related to loops. For example, I will give here frequently asked questions in interviews related to for loops. What are those, like how they ask questions? For example, suppose, so how to read and print values from 2D array, two-dimensional array. Two-dimensional array means actually we have an array. That means what is the 2D array? So two-dimensional array means we have where some reference name values is equal to array. How it is a two-dimensional array? In an array, again array. So this array contains, suppose 10, 20. Another contains 30, 40. So another contains 50, 60. Now tell me how to read this and print. It is an array of arrays. First values is an array. In this values array, there are again arrays. So first I will show you here the point. You tell me, I will just, according to your hints, I will tell, right? I will write here, right? For example, here I am adding a simple one, examples. Okay, let's see here. We are creating a script and we are writing a simple var values. The values are like this, 10, 20, and value are 30, 40, and the value are 50 and 60. Tell me how to print. First, we are writing for. For var, start with what? I is equal to 0. I less than values dot what? Length I plus plus. That means we are reading all the values from this array. We are reading all the values from that array. So 0 refers to first array. In that array, again, two values are there. How to read them? Again, for j is equal to 0, j less than how much? So this length, na? Right? That length. We have to get the length of this array. How to get the length of that array? Values of, suppose I return values of 0. 0 means what? First one dot length. So then what we have to do? J plus plus. I need to print the value. So what we will do? Document dot write. What we have to do? Suppose if I say 0, that means only first one. How to get the second one? How do we get the second, third? All I have to get now. Then it will be I. I will be 1, 2, 3, 4 like this. Okay. Document dot write. I need to print values of I. Then values of I means first one. After that, in that first array, so I here j na, j I am giving like this. So I am just giving a break. Line break I am defining. We are reading the values of I and j reference and we are printing them. Right? You can see all these will print. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. This is two-dimensional array. For example, actually, sometimes what they do, they ask like print like a matrix. So 10, 20. So that means what we have to do? 10, 20 in one line, 30, 40 in another line, 50, 60 in another line. Tell me how. This break will print everyone in new line. If I remove this break, what will happen? If I remove that break, what will happen? All will be printed side by side now. After printing the first one, here I will give document dot write. So br. I will print document dot write br. Then it will print like this. And every value, what you have to do, I will use space. That means ampersand NBSP semicolon. That means it is going to print space. I will use another ampersand NBSP semicolon. That means you see 2 character space will come. That is how we print the values. These kind of questions you will get in interviews. Right? That means sometimes they ask directly print. Sometimes they ask print in this format. Right? Then you must know how to read and how do we print. This is a simple example of reading the values from a 2-dimensional array. That means what is happening? This is for reading first array. After reading first array, this is for external array. This is for internal array. After reading every internal array, it should have a line break now. After line break, it will go to second. So that means after printing all the elements in that array, it is going to print second one. This is how we print a two-dimensional array. Two-dimensional array. Two-dimensional, three-dimensional. We call multi-dimensional array. Don't get confused. If anyone asks, do you know how to create a 2D array, 3D array? It's not a complex thing. You can have any number of values. Suppose here I said some A, then it is going to print that A in that row. It is not necessary that there must be same type of values. So there must be same type of values, different type of values, different sequence. Generally, other technology people call this as jagged arrays. Jagged arrays. Jagged arrays means uneven number of rows and columns. One contains 3, another contains 1, another contains 2. That means you see here, suppose here it contains 60, 80, and suppose it contains 100. You can see it is going to print them. In another array, it is going to have only one. Suppose only one is there in another array, it is going to print that. This is various how we can manage. So generally, so this is one example. This kind of tasks are given to you. How we can read from a two-dimension array. That's how we do from a two-dimension array. Right, this is example. Reading values from a 2D array. Nested loops, how to create them. Like this, I will give you some questions. You try them. Right, so I will post some series of questions related to loops. You try to design them. So if you are unable to understand, I will explain. Okay. This all comes under which category? Loops. Now we have another option. We have iterators. Iteration statements. Iteration statements, actually, what are the iteration statements we are having? Iteration statements we have. What is iteration is? Iteration is the process of reading elements from a collection in sequential order. In sequential order. Iteration is the process of reading elements from a collection in sequential order. And what is specialty is it doesn't require initialization, condition, and counter. It doesn't require. It knows where to start, where to stop, and how to proceed. It is going to manage all of them internally. So it doesn't require initialization, condition, and all. Already we learned. So iterations can be created by using, we have for in and we have for off. Already we learned about them. What is for in? For in is for what? It is for reading all properties. And for off is used for reading all values from collection. All properties from collection we can read, and all values from collection we can read. How to read both values and properties also we learn. By using for in, we can manage that. So syntactically, for var item of collection, like this we write. So here no condition, no counter, no iteration. It knows where to start, it knows where to end, it knows how to proceed. So this is simple for. All means iterators. So if anybody asks what is difference between a loop and iteration. So loop requires initialization, condition, and counter. Iterators doesn't require. Iterators will sequentially access elements from the collection and they will return. That is iterations. So already in arrays, I showed you how to use different iterations we learned. No need of any example for that, right? Same example what I showed with for loop. Similarly, we can do with the iterators. Already in our lot of examples, we used them. Iteration statements, how to use. So these are looping statements, conditional statements, and iteration. Next important, we have jump statements. Jump statements keywords, we have three. One is break, we have return, and we have continue. I think I already explained break and return difference. In switch, I explained. So what break will do? Break will terminate the block, and still stays in function. What return will do? Return will terminate the execution of script. It will terminate the execution of string. That means actually it stops compiling. Compilation will stop. If you don't want anything to compile anymore, we want to just stop, then we can use what? Return. Actually, many people think return is used for returning a value, but it is not like that. Return is used for termination. That you will see in functions also. Okay. We used both of them, break as well as return. Why we need a break, I will show you. One example I will show you. Here, let's see. So why we need a break? Let's see one example here. Suppose we have some JSON file. I will create a new file called users.json. Users.json file is present. Here I am creating an array of objects. In that I given user ID. User ID is some John. Okay. I am using another user ID. User ID is some John 1, 2. So another user ID. So this is John _ NIT. So another user ID. So here we have David, something like this. Now I am creating a registration form. I am creating one registration form. So field set legend register user. And in that we will define user ID. Now user will register a new user ID, txt. So txt ID. That is input type is what? Text. ID as txt user ID. Okay. Now here what we want to do is, so ID as user error. Now what I want is, when anybody registering, when user enters a user ID, I need to verify that user ID is already taken or not. Because in registration forms it is common. What is common in registration form is, when you are registering a new user, it will verify is that already taken or not. That means when you are typing user ID, I have to check in my data, is that user ID is already taken or not. If it is already taken, it should show me a message user ID taken, try another. If not taken, then it should say user ID available. Now remember, for every character I have to verify, because even one character change, user ID may be available. Suppose you entered John, user ID not available. You enter John 1. Is it available? Yes. But John 1, 2 is not available. That means one character change also, it will be available or it may be taken. So 1, 2 is taken. 1, 2, 3 is available like that. So I have to check first user. After that, I have to check second user, then check third user and fourth user like that. But if my condition found in the second user itself, then I need not to check the second and third, fourth and fifth. We have to stop. Understood? That means we are reading from first to last. But when we meet the condition, we don't want to continue. Then how to terminate? If the condition is matching, we should not terminate. So we should not continue. We should terminate. How you can do that? So we can do that by using jump, either break or we can use return. So see now how to write the logic for this. Let's go to the design. Here, while typing, we have to verify. I will use an event on key up. On key up. On key up, I am giving verify user ID. On key up indicates verify for every character immediately when it is released. Every character when it is released, we have to verify. That you have to do on key up. On key up. We are verifying every user. Okay. We will write a function here. Write script. In the script, we have function verify user ID. First, we have to collect user ID entered in text box. Document dot get element by ID. What is it? txt user ID dot value. And we want to display message in user error. In user error, document get element by ID user error. There we want to display the error. Now we will write here. We have to read all the users from the JSON file. How to read all the users from JSON file? We have to use fetch. Fetch from /data/ in that what? Users. It is ... only, na? Yeah, directly we have data called users, na? Right. So here we will put users dot what? JSON. Dot then we will use a callback function. It will get a response. Return the response. Response as JSON. After that, then and the function, it will get the data. Data is nothing but users. Now here in this users, we need to read all users from first to last. Then we will use for var user of collection name. Collection is what? Users. We will check the condition. If user dot user ID, that is the user ID. That is the user ID we are having. If user dot user ID is matching with the user ID you entered. User ID you entered in text box. If it is equal to the user ID you entered in text box, then user error dot inner HTML, it should display user ID taken. User ID taken, try another. That means it is already available. Font color we will keep as red. Otherwise what should happen else? User error dot inner HTML, it should display user ID available. So I will keep here some font color as what? Green. Like this I define. Now here problem is what happens? This loop starts. It will verify first user. First user is matching. Then it will print this message. After printing the message, it will not stop. It will verify second user. Second user is available. In that case, it will display this message. That means if condition is matching, execute this statement. And do I need to continue after this? No, stop there. Then we have to use here. If I don't use here, you see, I'm entering some John user ID available. It is still showing available, right? So it should, that means it is going into this and not coming out of this. So it should finish this line, and after that, immediately we will break. That means now what happens after verifying the condition? If this condition is matching, execute the statement, then no need to execute anymore. Stop. We can use break. Now tell me, do I need to use break or return? Do I need to use break or return? Why return? What else is there to compile here? Break also will stop, na? So in this moment, break or return both are similar. But in future, if we want some other functionalities to handle after this user ID, compilation should not stop. Compilation should continue. Only you should come out of this block. In that case, break. There is no other work done. This is the only work we are doing. Then we bet in this screen. In that case, better return. We can use any of these. So I'm using break, and now you see I am typing here John J, username is available, John, and it says username taken. So try another. If I say John 1, it is available. So John 1, 2, it is taken. 1, 2, 3, it is available. And John is taken. John underscore NI is available. NIT, it is taken. So every character it will verify. This is break. If you don't break, what will happen? It will continue to the next statement. If it is going to continue to the next statement, what will happen? If continues to the next statement, then the next message will come, that the previous message will be overridden. You cannot see the proper message. You cannot see the proper message. So that is the concept of break, how you can break. I already showed you difference between break and return in switch. What happens, how it compiles. But this is the situation you need to understand. So, for example, I will give a simple one. So, simple concept is, suppose a simple option like this. Suppose the simple option is, I am writing here, so function, so for var I is equal to 1, I less than or equal to 20, I plus plus. Now what should happen here is, I need to print document dot write the value of I. So it will print from 1 to 20. It is going to print 1 to 20. But after reaching 6, it should stop. That means you are doing it, but where to stop, I will decide. Dynamically later, I can decide. That means you can add like this here. So here I said, so var, so stop, so upper bound, I will give upper bound, okay. Upper bound is nothing but, so we will put a prompt. So parse int, we will put a prompt. So here, so loop loop prints 1 to 20. Set your stop number. You have to set the stop number. It will print 1 to 20, set the stop number. And that stop number, this is actually stop number. And what happens is here, it is printing all numbers. They mention stop number 7, it should stop there. This loop should stop when this stop number matches. Then what we do? We write a simple if condition. In the if condition, we are writing, so here, what is it? If I is equal to what number? Stop number. If I is equal to stop number, then what should happen? Then we will put a break. Right? Otherwise, we will print this number. You don't need an else. Directly print this number wherever this condition matches, stop there. So here, can I use return also? Can I use return also? No, we can't use here. Why? See the syntax. So you should know this difference actually. Actually, return can be used. So I will give here. So return can be used only so within a function. Within a function. If it is not inside the function, return cannot be used. Return can be used only within a function. Why it is used within a function, in the next concept you will learn. Why? Because you have to learn functions for that. Then you will understand, right? So return can be used only within a function. So here return is not possible. Because is there any function here? No. If this code is in a function, then you can use return. If there is no function, you cannot use return. That means return is used as a jump statement only in any function. Break can be used anywhere. So if you are dealing with individual lines, you can directly put break after 2 lines, after 3 lines, like that. But it must be, return must be used only in a function. Only in a function. So here I am running this here. I am running this. It will ask, so loop prints 1 to 10, set your stop number. Stop number is 5. It will stop at 4. Right? So you can print the 5th number also if you want. How to print the 5th number? So you first print, after that check the condition. That's your wish. You can put anywhere. So for example, I defined here. So stop number is 20. It will print up to 19. Stop number is 8. It will print up to 7. So that is how we can configure the values. Now let's write return here. Instead of break, I will use return. I will use return. And you see here, it's not working. It's not working because return statement cannot work. So you can see, say illegal return statement. Why return statement is illegal? Because return statement can work only when you are defining the statements in a function. So return is used to jump out of a function. So it must be in a function. Right? But break can be used in any block. It can be used in any block. That means if block or for block, without a function also we can use. So but return you have to use only in a function. In a function. That is very important. So if this code is in a function, okay. How to put the code in a function? So we write a function, print numbers. That is a function. In that I will put all the code. Right? Now I need to call that function. How do we call the function? Print numbers. Now here I am using return keyword. So it is working. I entered 4. It will print 3. Return can be used only when it is defined in a function. So break can be used anywhere. So without a function also you can handle by using break. That's what actually return. So important point is it cannot be used outside function. For example, I will give you here one more thing here. See, I am writing document.write. So line 1. Line 1. After that document.write. So line 2. So like this we are printing line 1 break, line 2 break. Like this we are defining. Like this we are having another line. So line 3. So and we have line 4. Now what I am doing is I am printing all the lines. It is going to print all the lines 1 to 4. Now here I am defining after 2 line, I put a break. After 2 line, I put a break. So it is not working. Why? Break needs a condition to verify and stop. Break needs a condition to verify and stop. Suppose I am using return. I am using return and I refresh. It's also not working. Why? Because return needs a function. So you keep all these lines in a function. Okay, all these lines in a function F1. It is having all these lines and call F1. And here I will use break. Now function is also a block, but break is not working. But here return, if I use return, you can see return is working. If it will print line 1 and line 2. So what is another point you need to know about return? You understood it must be in a function. What about break? So break can be used only with a condition. With a condition. So condition that you can say condition block. It can be used with a condition block. That means you have to tell when to break. But return doesn't require a condition. Wherever return is kept, it will stop compiling. But it should be in a function. Break need not to be in a function. But what is the rule of break? It must need a condition. It must need a condition. If you have the condition, then only it will stop. So a break is a conditional jump. Return is not a conditional jump. Return is not a conditional jump. Return will jump wherever you keep it, but it must be in a function. So here note what is the key point. So return is not a conditional jump. Conditional jump. It doesn't require a condition. So break is a conditional jump. Break is a conditional jump. It is a conditional jump. It requires a condition to stop. Condition to stop. And what is the speciality of continue? Continue is a jump statement. Jump statement which skips the current context. Skips the current context and continue to next. Continue is a jump statement which skips the current context and continue to the next. It will skip the current context and it will continue to the next. That is what actually the concept of continue. What is this means? I will tell you what this means. So I will show you here. Suppose I am writing here for where I is equal to 1, I less than or equal to 20. Document dot write. So and I plus plus also na I. We will put a counter as I plus plus. So this is going to print all the numbers from 1 to 20. Now what should happen is when it reaches 4, it should skip that 4 and continue to the 5th one. It should ignore that. Then what you can do is I'm writing a condition. If I is equal to 4, then I'm defining break, suppose. What this break means, if I is equal to 4, it will stop. So I will put this statement above. I will put the statement above. Like this I am writing. That means it is printing that 4 also. Right? Now, if I is equal to 4, then not break. I will give as continue. If I give continue, if I is 4, it will continue. And see, it is continuing. But now you have to move this line below. That means if I is equal to 4, then skip. You can see that 4 is skipped. That means 1, 2, 3, 4 is gone. That means what continue can do, when it matches the condition, it skips that counter and continue to the next. You can skip the current counter and continue to the next. For that, we have to use continue. You can use any condition here. So suppose I want to skip 4 and 14. How? How means you can write conditional statement or I is equal to how much? 14. That means 1, 4, another one is 14. Or and you can use multiple expression. That means now you can see 1, 2, 3, 5. After that you see 13, 12, 13, 15. 14 is not there. This is used to skip the counter. Actually, this is important in handling various complex data. Suppose we see fake store data. I told you to design fake store app. I given any exercise on that? Checkboxes exercise I given. Checkbox total. You done that? How you used the checkboxes? So this continue like concept will help. Actually, we can use find and filter methods, right? So here, suppose there you see now, suppose we have where products is an array. In this, we have name as TV and category as electronics. So we have another name, some Nike casuals, and the category as footwear. We have another name. This is like some mobile, and category as electronics. Okay, so we have like, so name as shirt and category as fashion. Like this I am defining another name. So boots, so category as footwear. Now what I want to do is I need to read all the products, but wherever footwear comes, it should ignore. That means only electronics and fashion should come. All others should come. Only footwear, wherever it comes, it should stop. It should not stop, it should skip. right? Then how to write? For where item of collection. Collection is what? Products. Condition here. If item dot category is equal to what? Footwear. If item category is footwear, then what should happen? We will put a break. Break means it will stop. It will not continue, but we will use continue. Continue means skip that and go to next. So that's it. So we will print document.write. I am printing item.name. Other items names must be printed. Wherever category is footwear, ignore that. That means what it will do, other than footwear, it will print all. TV, mobile, shirt. Suppose I want to skip the fashion. So then wherever fashion comes, continue. That means fashion is skipped. Can we skip multiple? Yes. I want to skip the fashion. I want to skip electronics. That means item.category is equal to what? Electronics. Fashion and electronics are skipped. Then only footwear will come. You can write multiple conditions also to define. So continue means what? It skips the current counter and go to the next. That is what continue can do. This all comes under which category? This all comes under the category of jump. So we call them as jump statements. So break, return, another one is continue. So next we have exception handling statements. Exception handling statements. In the statements we have exception handling. What is exception handling and why we need exception handling statements? Actually, what is exception handling? I will tell you one point. For example, in computer programming, can you tell me what is difference between error and bug? In computer programming, what is difference between error and bug? Tell me. Then what is warning? So you have a warning. So you have warning, error, bug, all are there. What is difference between error and bug? Yeah, with the bug we can continue. Errors also usually come. Errors also usually come when developer writes a wrong code. You cannot say that error is system generated. Right. Technically, what is difference is error is a compilation issue. Error is a compilation issue. If any error occurs, what will happen? Application fails to compile and application fails to run. Understood? Application fails to compile and run. So if any error occurred, compilation fails and your application will not start. This is error. Bug means what? Your application starts, it is working also, but at certain place it stops. at a certain place it stops. Understood? That means it starts working. At certain circumstances, it will stop. Why it will stop? Because that situation may not suit it. If the situation doesn't suit it, it will stop. For example, what happens is that is what actually bug, right? And usually what happens is you may not notice that situation, and without handling that, you designed an app, and user sometimes goes into that situation and your application fail. You haven't noticed it, right? So because you haven't identified it as the problem to be addressed while developing app, you never thought about that, but suddenly that situation came from client side, then it will stop, right? That means it is simply like you developed something, so not for every purpose, but he tried to use for that purpose, then it will stop because it is not designed for that purpose. These are technically called bugs. Bugs means they are the issues which will come while using the application. So errors will come at the time of compiling the application. Actually, for this, you need to understand 2 points. Actually, in computer programming, in computer programming, two types of errors are present. Two types of errors are present. What are the two types of errors? Compile time errors and runtime errors. Two types of errors will be there. So compile time errors are syntactical errors. So are syntactical errors. So usually due to which program fails to compile. It fails to compile and start. That is what compile time errors. Syntactical errors. Runtime errors are nothing but runtime errors are the issues that occur at the time of running application, or you can at the time of using application. That means actually, so your application is unable to understand the instructions given. That means it worked up to certain point. At a certain stage, it is unable to understand your instructions. Some instructions it understood, some instructions it is unable to understand. If any application is unable to understand your instructions, what will happen? Error will not come. Error is related to compile time. During using the application, if any application is unable to understand your instructions, what will happen? So if any application is unable to process the instructions given by user at runtime, so this leads to leads to abnormal termination. This leads to abnormal termination. So using at runtime. So unable to process the instructions given by user actually. Given by user at runtime. So if any application unable to process the instructions given by user at runtime, then this leads to, then it leads to abnormal termination. I'll say it leads to abnormal termination. What is abnormal termination? Abnormal termination is nothing but, so application closes. Application closes suddenly. So this is abnormal termination. That means you are doing some work. You might have experienced this when you are using mobile or you are using your PC, laptop. You are working on that. Lot of busy work you are doing. Suddenly all closed. You experienced it? Suddenly closed. Everything closed. That means that application closes suddenly. This is called abnormal termination. Abnormal termination. Why an application terminates abnormally? Because it is unable to understand your instructions. If it is unable to understand my instructions, it will terminate my application. It closes the application. No, it should not close. It should not close the application. It should tell me what is the problem. Understood? That means what we have to do as a developer to avoid abnormal termination. Abnormal termination. So we have to implement exception handling. We have to implement exception handling. That means if any application is unable to understand your instructions, that leads to exceptions. So what is the necessity and what an exception will do? Exception will terminate the application. So usually if application unable to understand instructions, then exception will trigger. Exception will trigger, which leads to what? Abnormal termination. So if anybody asks what is the purpose of exception handling, what is your answer? If anyone asks what is the purpose of exception handling? This much I explained, but I want technical answer. Technical point only you have to answer. Exception handling is required in computer programming to do what? To avoid abnormal termination. That is the key point. To avoid abnormal termination, because application terminates abnormally, right? Have you faced this anytime while working with JavaScript and HTML? Have you faced this anytime while working with HTML and JavaScript? No. Then why you need it? So this is another point actually. Remember, you haven't Remember, HTML JavaScript will not lead to any abnormal termination at all. That is some other issue. Suppose your browser closed, something happened. That is abnormal termination, but it is not related to your JavaScript code. That is not related to JavaScript code. Remember, JavaScript HTML will never terminate abnormally. That is some other issue in your application. Right? Some other issue. Right? JavaScript HTML, no chance. There is no abnormal termination at all. Right? Abnormal termination will not happen. For example, see, suppose I will show you here. So where A is equal to parse int. So prompt, enter A value. Similarly, where B, and I am giving enter B value. Now where C is equal to A divided by B. Then document.write, I am printing here division. Division is equal to C, the value of C. Now let's run this and see here. So value A is 20, value B is some 2, 10. Right? Value A is 40, it is 20, it is 2. It's working fine. Now value A is 20, value B is 0. Can you divide anything by 0? Mathematically, it is not possible. You cannot divide anything by 0. Then Java.NET or C, C++, other type of programming, what they will do? They will stop your application. That means suddenly this browser closes. Suddenly that browser closes. But see here, it is showing infinity. There is no error at all. There is no abnormal termination. Then why you need exception handling? You don't need exception handling because the problem is even JavaScript cannot track the exceptions with HTML. JavaScript cannot track the exceptions in HTML. Even you use, it cannot track the exceptions. Then it is completely not required. But you have to learn, because if JavaScript is used individually with any another, not with HTML, means JavaScript is used server side in other places where you need exception handling. There it can catch exception, but with HTML it cannot. So when you are using JavaScript with HTML, no need to use exception handling. Even you use time waste. You better use error handling. Why it is time waste, I will tell you. Actually, how exceptions are managed. So exception handling statements are, we have try, we have catch, we have throw, and we have finally. Actually, try is called, it is called monitoring block. Monitoring block. Catch is called handler block. Handler block. Throw is called, throw, it is nothing but throws exception. Throws exception. Finally means executes statements always. That's what this work is. So try, catch, throw, finally. Here you see, I am writing here try. Suppose I am writing here try. So you see, this is try block. In the try block, give the statements to execute. These are all the statements to execute. Okay. Now write catch block. What catch block will do is, it uses a function, method. this will catch the problem. That means if any of these 4 lines are unable to execute, then it will catch the exception. That means it will catch the problem. That problem we will print. Document.write. What is that problem we will print? Right? That means we are asking to try these statements. If any statement fails, why it failed, it will catch and which will print. Observe carefully. I am entering here. Enter value 20, 2, and it is 10. I entered 20, 0. It is showing infinity. Exception not catching. Because in other technologies, an exception is thrown called divide by 0 exception. A divide by 0 exception will come and automatically it will show a message that you cannot divide by 0. But here it is not coming. Then what is use? Then what we have to do? We have to throw the exception manually. How? That means we have to write like this. If b is equal to 0, then throw what is the message? Throw cannot divide by what? 0. Cannot divide by 0. That is the message. Now you throw the message, it will catch that message. What is use? Instead of write simple, put an alert. Why to throw a message? Why to catch that message? It is unable to catch the problems because 100 to 100% JavaScript cannot track the issues of HTML. But JavaScript can track other issues when it is independently used. With HTML, it cannot catch because HTML is dynamically generated DOM. And those DOM, it cannot manage. In that case, what happens? You have to manually throw and you have to present. Now you see, I'm entering, so 20 and 2, it's working fine. I'm entering here what? Suppose 20 and 0, then you see cannot divide by 0. Is this the exception thrown by JavaScript implicitly? Is this the exception thrown by JavaScript implicitly? It is not thrown by JavaScript implicitly. We explicitly throw the exception and we catch. In that case, we don't prefer this. Very rarely, not rarely, you will not see any professional people writing exception handling statements with JavaScript and HTML combination. JavaScript and HTML combination, right? So technically, it is not handling implicitly. You can see clearly who is this, Manikanda. Manikanda, you have seen that it is not handling implicitly. I don't know why you have the same question again. It is not handling the exception. Is it handling exception implicitly? You have seen that clearly. It is not handling. Then why you need? So that means you have to throw it externally, explicitly. So if it is handling implicitly, that is good. I can use this. If it is not handling, what is use? I have to throw the exception. I have to report it. So you can write multiple also. For example, if B is greater than A, then we will throw another problem. What is that? So cannot, suppose say cannot a number, I said number too large like this. Number too large. That means you entered here, suppose 20 and 3, it is okay. So you entered here, so 20 and 0 cannot divide by 0. You entered here 20 and you entered 40, then number too large. Are these internally generated? These are not internally generated. These are manually thrown by you and handled by. So, and we have final. So this is very good and required later. If you are using JavaScript with combination of some other technologies, so not HTML. That means we can use JavaScript with Node.js server side. When you are doing like that, there it can catch the problems because they have error exception libraries there. Here HTML don't have any exception library. So browser is not having an exception library. If browser is not having an exception library because your HTML is compiled where? Your HTML is processed, compiled, JavaScript also processed, compiled in which location? In browser. Your JavaScript is compiled in browser. I told you in the beginning, JavaScript uses JIT and AOT. Remember that? JIT means what? Just in time. It compiles in the browser. There are no implicit exceptions. But if it is compiled explicitly, then there are exceptions. There is an exception library because AOT means ahead of time. It will compile at application level. For that we use JavaScript compilers like Babel and all. Babel, V8. These are JavaScript compilers. Through this, they have exceptions. If JavaScript is used with combination of these, they can provide an exception library they can handle. With HTML, it is not possible. With HTML, it is not possible. That is the reason you have to throw and handle. And what is finally? Finally is nothing but it contains statement which is executed always. Exception handled, exception not handled. Every time it is going to handle that. That means I will put alert saying that program end. Right, program end, or I am printing some program end. So you see enter value for 30 and 2, then program end division. And you see I entered value for, suppose, yeah, I entered value for 20 and 0. It says program end and it is can't divide by 0. That is nothing but if you want to clean up the memory after every time the process is finished, whether it is success or failed, certain action to be performed every time, then we can give this to what? Final. So these are good. Exception handling is very important, very good, but not when it is used with HTML. So this is a simple basic thing. Later it will be helpful for you if you are using JavaScript with combination of others. Like you are using JavaScript separately with React, Angular like technologies separately, because Angular also don't use JavaScript directly, it uses TypeScript. In that case, so where you are using individually with other libraries ahead of time you are compiling, those compiling systems can provide you, they can provide you a exception library which helps you to throw and catch the exception implicitly. Otherwise, you have to explicitly throw and handle them, right? These are all under the category of what kind of statements, exception handling, right? These are all different types of statements in JavaScript. Once we know the statements, now you can go into the concept of functions, which is very major thing here that we'll see tomorrow. So we will discuss what are functions and how do we work with the functions in tomorrow's session. This is the biggest thing in JavaScript. In interviews, most questions are asked related to functions. What are these functions? You will see in the next session. Tomorrow we'll continue. Okay.